Hi, I'm Gary Blum, owner of Blum Tool Company. Today I'd like to demonstrate sharpening the blade of a Blum plane, and to do that we're going to use the Fixed Angle Jig. First thing we want to do is loosen the star lock knob. Then we'll move the blade about 1/8 of an inch below the sole and relock the knob. At this point, you can loosen the 3 screws and remove the blade. We'll start on the 34-degree end of our little fixed angle jig. The numbers are written up on the thumb screw, and we want this blade to stick up above the angle here, just slightly. We'll adjust this one up a little bit. So right now we're just slightly above the edge here. We'll start by doing the coarse honing, and this is really equivalent to the grinding step for a normal plane iron. The advantage of this small iron is it never has to be ground. By doing coarse honing, we can get rid of the dullness and establish a wire edge, and then we'll come back on the 35-degree end and polish the edge. What I like to start with is just a block of MDF. I keep a couple or 3 of them around, 150, maybe 120, and then a 220. Depending on how dull your blade has become, if you've let it go a long time and it's really dull, you might want to start with a 150. We'll do that here demonstrating, but really use the finest grit you can get by with without and still have the speed you need. We'll start to hone this blade. The way you tell when you've gotten past the dullness is when you establish a wire edge on the back of the blade. So I felt a little bit of a wire edge, but not too much. So we'll continue this. Now right here I've got a wire edge across the entire back of the blade. So that tells me that I've gotten by the dullness. Any grit that comes off in the sandpaper, make sure you wipe off your jig here. Now let's use the 220 block. And we have a good wire edge on the back of that. So now really this blade is equivalent to the ground state if you were using a regular blade. We'll flip our jig to the 35-degree end and make sure again it's slightly above the edge. Right about like that. We'll start our fine honing with a DMT fine diamond stone. We can use this dry, or you could use a little water or oil with it. We'll go back and forth. And it doesn't take very long to establish a little micro bevel. There's no use going too far here. We'll just hone off more steel than is necessary. But this is a good time to do a little cambering if you like. You can spend a little more time on the edge. Put a little camber on the blade. We'll go from there to a soft Arkansas. Put a drop of oil on, spread it around on the stone a little bit, and spend some time with the soft Arkansas. Always keeping in mind the camber that we're trying to put on there too, so even with the finer stones you'll spend a little more time on the edges. And I like to check this with a straight edge. Set it on there and make sure the camber is what you want. We'll just continue honing with a fine Arkansas and a little drop of oil. You can get right up to the edge with these. You don't need to spin just in one spot. or all back and forth. The beauty of doing it this way, if you do go over, on a normal stone, when you have the blade up here and you go over a little bit, you end up digging into the stone. With this one, if you tip forward, it's no big deal. You're just on the heel of the bevel and it doesn't bother a thing. So you can go completely sideways with this. Some people like to do side sharpening. You can go in a circular motion, whichever motion you like. Put another little drop of oil on here and go to a translucent Arkansas stone. You'll notice we've put a mounting block on our stones. We have fixed it with just a few dabs of silicone, and it allows you to keep your fingers well away from the blade and have clearance as you're running the stone. We sell these with all our Arkansas stones, or if you have another stone that you want to use, it's a simple enough matter. Just put your own wood block on the stone. So we'll use our translucent Arkansas. Now we'll start chasing that wire edge. Always feel to make sure you've gotten it. Feels good. Notice how easy it is to set the blade back down in its holders. It's in the exact same position each time. Now we're bending the little wire edge back and forth. We'll do this a few times. Put another little drop of oil on here. I kind of like a sideways motion on the final stone working. Get that off. And of course you can go as fine as you want with sharpening a plain blade. That's a pretty fine stone there, a translucent Arkansas. I like those because they're not real messy and they don't need a lot of flattening. So right now we've got a pretty sharp blade. We can go one step further and hone this at the same angle. I use just a piece of MDF and I'll scribble a little green honing compound on here. You can use whatever honing compound you like. And to start with, I'll pull this back just to keep that blade from digging in. Once you get going, it seems like you can use it then with a regular stone motion. To do the back side, I do it just a little differently than I would with a chisel. I'll rest one edge of the stone on the jig, and the other edge I'll rest on the blade, and I'll just gently stroke that to get rid of the wire edge on the back of the blade here. I might go back and forth a few times doing this. This polishes the blade to a little finer polish, and it also removes any traces of wire burr. Just gently doing that on back. This is kind of an upside down version of David Charlesworth's ruler trick, if any of you are familiar with that. We're putting just a very slight angle there, which helps to remove that burr and sharpen it right out to the edge. So we should be sharp. Now the only thing left to do is to reinsert it in the plane. Just hold the plane at an angle away from you. Insert the blade so it stays in there, and it doesn't have to be in its final position. Just gently snug the screws up. Right now you can see that the blade is not in there perfectly straight, but that's fine as long as we're out a little bit from where we want to be. Now we'll just loosen these screws just a touch, and we'll tap the blade with the handle end of the screwdriver to the desired location. For a real fine cut, I might put that as close as the 1/64 of an inch. For most general planing, I would generally set it about a 32nd of an inch. So just tap that up to where you like it. Tighten the screws. Now the last thing we'll do is pull that back up. Now we're close, and we'd go ahead and set the blade in its final position.